Madara Uchiha is definitely one of the most iconic characters in the Naruto series, and one of the reasons why is because the guy simply has the best lines in the entire story. There's just something about Madara's charisma whenever he delivers those amazing lines, making fun of other people, belittling them, or just stating some very hard facts that it's cool to watch, and you just want to see more of him on screen. So today we're gonna be ranking the 10 greatest and most iconic quotes from Madara Uchiha. Starting off with number 10, I have reached the other side. When you first take a look at this phrase, it doesn't seem like the most interesting one, or even the most impactful quote I could have pulled, but it's a very good one. Madara says that after he manages to toss a massive Bijudama lace with his Susanoo sword to the other side of a massive body of water, I don't know if that's a sea, an ocean, whatever, but it reaches the other shore very far away. And Madara tells that to Hashirama, taking them back to the days when they were kids, skipping pebbles on the river. And Madara couldn't reach the other side with a pebble. He was always behind Hashirama, so actually reaching the other side during their climactic fight was a big deal for him, and just a very cathartic moment. It really gives you a sense that this character really cares about his rivalry with Hashirama, and even though he now has much bigger plans for himself and the world, he still respects the first Kage, and he wants to defeat him. Number 9. These might be a little bit heavier than raindrops. Now, this phrase is just pretty iconic and funny. It's one of the most humorous ones. Madara wasn't really trying to make fun of anyone in this particular situation, or I guess you could say he was making fun of literally every single person in the world because they wouldn't be able to do much about his Chibaku Tensei there. But he says that right after he casts Chibaku Tensei in his 10-tailed Jinchuriki form and forms 24 massive planetoids in the atmosphere, and then casually tosses them down, saying that these might be a little heavier than raindrops, you know, be careful. It's raining meteors instead of rain, and Madara just comes and says that. And yes, his roast here doesn't have a particular target, but this is a quote that really shows his sense of superiority. And it's just the sheer irony of it all. He says that very casually, and then you see literal planets falling down, and he actually says that one in a very humorous way. Usually he's just like snarky and trying to belittle other people, but this time you get the sense he was just much more playful, maybe because he was so close to achieving the infinite Tsukiyomi he was happy about it. Number 8. What adult would go full force fighting mere children? This one humiliates quite substantially. Madara tells that to the 5 Kage, and more specifically to Onoki after he unleashes his perfect Susanoo. The 5 Kage thought they caught Madara with that clever combo of theirs, but he just pulls the perfect Susanoo and completely shatters their hopes of ever defeating him. The 5 Kage look completely desperate, and Onoki's just staring at this perfect Susanoo, and he says, "Wait, why didn't you use this before?" And he even thinks back to when he met Madara way back in the day when Madara was actually alive. Onoki and Mu met with Madara, and Madara had none of their conversation. They wanted to make a peace deal with the Leaf Village, and he says, "Nah, and don't you ever see Hashirama's name ever again on my presence." And then when Onoki says, "Wait, why didn't you use this before then? Like, you could have just stomped us real quick." Madara's just like, "You're just kids. Why would I use my full force? I am the adult here. You know nothing about this world, or even what it means to be strong." And then the humiliation is topped off with the 5 Kage looking completely desperate at the perfect Susanoo that just towers over them. Number 7. You dance well, but your moves are still weak or slow. It depends on the translation. Another quote that comes in the fight against the 5 Kage. It happens just after Onoki hits Madara with a particle style, revealing Hashirama's face on his chest. And for the first time, Madara actually acknowledges the 5 Kage at being somewhat competent in any regard. Now, of course, we find out later that Madara let himself get hit with the particle style on purpose to show Hashirama's face to the 5 Kage so that they would just lose hope. Nonetheless, Madara's compliment here is still valid because Onoki was able to shrug off Hashirama's Polen jutsu, which is very powerful and was rendering the 5 Kage unconscious, but Onoki managed to pull through with sheer willpower and blast it away, actually hitting Madara in the process, even though he let himself get hit by it. And the thing is, this particular quote has a little bit of a loss in translation. Now, the original one goes like this: Yoku odoru, which means you dance well, daga fumikomi ga mada asai, but your steps are still shallow. So saying that they're weak or slow isn't really exactly the best way to translate it from Japanese. It's the better way for the audience to understand. But when Madara means that they are shallow, it means that the 5 Kage have some interesting moves, but they don't have the sheer elegance and power that Madara possesses. And that's the thing about Madara, he likes his analogies with dancing. Speaking of which, number 6 is gonna be the quote, "I, Madara, declare you the strongest in the fight against Might Guy." And prior to this quote, which is the actual prime quote of the fight, he was telling Guy, "Can you keep on dancing? Come on, dance more." And I like this particular quote of Madara acknowledging Guy's. It's the best type of compliment anybody in the verse could receive. Like, Madara telling you're the strongest is a big deal. Now, of course, Madara means Guy is the strongest in terms of taijutsu. And this is obvious by the way Madara phrases his speech before giving this final quote. But in this particular moment, you can see Madara's just happy in sheer glee looking at this guy who's just giving him the time of his life in this battle. He's never had that much fun ever since he fought Hashirama in the Valley of the End. And this line and the entire fight against Guy really exemplifies another one of Madara's core character traits, which is that he loves contest and the thrill of battle. There's just something great about your main villain, a very charismatic guy, being happy and having fun while battling these extremely powerful opponents that are giving their lives to fight against them, and he's just having a good laugh because he's enjoying himself. It feels as though Madara is in a completely different league, and he really feels different because of his enjoyment of the situation. There's no other villain in the Naruto series that has that type of personality during a fight. Now, maybe you could say Deidara and Kisame also enjoy themselves while fighting, but Deidara kind of enjoyed his own art. It wasn't the fight itself, and Kisame just liked everything in general. He always had a good mood on, so when he was fighting, he was just in that same mood. But Madara, he doesn't really smile or laugh a lot, and even when he is fighting, but the fight's not really up to his standards like the 5 Kage fights, he's not really laughing or anything. He's not really having much fun against the 5 Kage. He's just like humiliating them time and time again. But when you see him fighting against Guy, just having a blast, telling that Guy's the strongest, that he gave him the best fight he's had in years, there's just something very satisfactory about that. And also for Guy's character has been acknowledged by this legendary character in the verse as being extremely powerful, which is cathartic as well. Number 5, and this is probably going to be the one that's the most humiliating line in the entire series, which is, "Weakness disgusts me, and weak Senjus disgust me even further." Now, this line exemplifies another core theme of Madara's character, that he values strength and doesn't really believe in the will of fire. No, strength is something created by physical objects. Weakness disgusts him, and when he sees Tsunade, a Senju, the granddaughter of his greatest rival, not being really up to par, he's completely disappointed and disgusted. Now, of course, Madara harbors a lot of resentment towards the Senju clan for everything they've done, especially Senju Tobirama, and this is in full display during this particular quote. Just a simple moment when that happens. You're just reading the speech bubbles or listening to the voice acting in the anime, and you're like, oh man, Madara's not pulling any punches, is he? Like, he just roasted Tsunade real good. And 99 times out of 100, you would probably hate the person saying those lines, but Madara's just so charismatic, and he can actually back up his claims with his power that you actually enjoy seeing him roasting people alive. And this line also sets up a very good moment for Tsunade, where she uses the 100 healings technique and actually goes on the offensive against Madara, which is a really cool moment for the character. And Kishimoto uses this a lot. Maybe some people don't enjoy it because of how much it's prevalent in the Naruto series, but I actually love it. When a character is looking at a particular character and then there's this juxtaposition of another character on top of that character, because the POV character is actually looking at that character and remembering someone else from the past. And this happens here in the scene with Tsunade when Madara is looking at her giving her speech, and then he sees Hashirama's face overlaid on hers. This usually happens with Naruto when characters see see Minato or Jiraiya when staring at Naruto's back, but it's good to see here with another character, and you see that the Will of Fire has also passed through Tsunade. And this little scene happens just after Madara tells that weakness disgusts him and weak Senjus disgusts him even further. So it's really cool. Like, the 5 Kage vs. Madara fight is one of the best ones in the series. Number 4. There is no mistake. That chakra is Hashirama! I love this line so much. Now, when you analyze this line in a very cold way, it doesn't look very cool or anything like that. It's just a statement about Madara sensing something, sensing Hashirama's chakra in the distance. This happens after Hashirama is brought back via Edo Tensei during the War Arc, and Madara senses him across the entire continent, all the way over in the Leaf Village, which means Madara's a damn good sensei type, or he's just really used to Hashirama's chakra that he can sense it over like a continent away. But the reason I put this line so high up here is because of Madara's smile. This might be my favorite panel in the Naruto manga. It was the first time we saw Madara laughing in glee like that, excited about the prospect of fighting against Hashirama, and it's this unhinged, chaotic, and frightening smile because we know what this character's capable of when he is barely even trying, aka in the fight against the 5 Kage. But now that he's getting pumped up for the fight, and Hashirama, his greatest lifelong rival, is coming to the battlefield, you're just itching in anticipation. I mean, Madara was so psyched about fighting Senju Hashirama again that the Telltales, which was under his control, went completely ballistic and did a cataclysm on the Alliance. And Madara's face here, his hair, his smile, everything looks great on this panel. I absolutely adore it. I have a freaking oil painting of that panel in my room. Look at it. Look at that Madara. Hashirama! Number 3 is going to be one of the most iconic lines in the entire series, which is, would you like the clones to use Susanoo or not? This is an iconic line just because the sheer volume of humiliation imbued in it, and also the unexpected and shocking revelation that Madara's clones could use Susanoo's. This happens after Mei's like, well, don't say we're being unfair, you're Madara Uchiha, it's 5 against 1 because you're a legendary shinobi. And then Madara says, 5 against 1, that sounds like a good number to have some fun. Then he creates 5 clones for each of the 5 Kage, and that's when he asks if they would like the clones to use Susanoo or not. It just sounds so ridiculous, like, what, can the clones use the Susanoo too? Isn't that too much? Madara, can you chill out for a second? Is there something you cannot do? Like, you have the Renegon, you can summon meteors from the sky, you can use wood style, and your clones can use the Susanoo? It's just one of those lines that when you read, you laugh because of the situation the 5 Kage are in, so you're desperate, but you're also just looking at this Madara guy that's like casually whipping out 25 Susanoos. And he leaves his clones to fight against the 5 Kage, the 5 strongest ninjas of the entire planet. While the original Madara just like watching the fight, arms crossed, looking at what the 5 Kage are gonna do against the Susanoo army, and he's like analyzing their moves. When Onoki breaks the Raikage out of the Genjutsu, he says, oh yes, Onoki's definitely carrying the battle here. He's doing a lot of work. This is one of the lines that cemented Madara as this charismatic god. Impactful one-liners that seem too ridiculous, like he cannot be doing this. What's going on? And the way he just says it casually, making the 5 Kage or anybody else in particular seem pathetic. It's just what made Madara so cool and unique when he was first introduced into the story, and why people really like the character. Number 2 is gonna be, don't misunderstand. This power is no creation of yours. Madara says that after Kabuto tells him that he was able to tap into the power of the Sage of Six Paths by reviving Madara and finding out his secrets. And also he implied that, well, it's because I fused you with some Hashirama cells as well. Which Madara probably says, no, you didn't create this power. Are you insane? You think you're much more important than you you actually are. Chill out, my dude. Madara believes firmly that he is the one who created this power. He achieved it. He actually awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan and the Rinnegan. Not this idiot who just summoned him as Edo Tensei. It just informs a lot about Madara's character here. He believes he is the one who holds the power. But this line is made even more iconic because of what comes directly after it. You see, Madara says that while he forms a hand sign with his own hands and his Susanoo hands. And then comes one of the most iconic scenes in the entire series. A gigantic meteor is summoned above the 4th Battalion of the Ninja Alliance. In one of the most insane manga panels, and in the anime the revelation was great as well. The camera is zooming out and zooming out more until you see this gargantuan rock that's about to crush everyone. It just gives you this sense that this guy is almost like a god in the universe. That there's nothing that can stop him. And yet somehow Gaara and Onoki managed to pull their efforts together and stop that massive meteor from destroying everyone. Which takes us to the #1 most iconic and epic line Madara has ever said. In my opinion, at least, he could have picked any of these for #1, to be honest. Which is gonna be, well, what about the second one, Onoki? You know what's better than 1 meteor crashing down upon you? 2 meteors crashing down upon you. And like, did you really have to do that to them, Madara? You had already summoned the second meteor. You didn't have to say that like that just to be cheeky. But this line shows that Madara acknowledged Onoki's strength in that scene. Oh, okay, he stopped the first one. That's pretty good. What about the second one? Do you have an answer for that, Onoki? For old time's sake? This like's pretty similar to the would you like the clones to use Susanoo or not, in terms of Madara just casually talking about his massive strength and the difference of power that he has over the others, while something completely insane happens on screen that you're like, okay, yeah, how is this guy doing this? There's no way our protagonists are gonna be able to scratch this dude. And it's just such a classic moment. The entire alliance, Onoki himself, they're all celebrating. We're not gonna die! The meteor was stopped! And then all of a sudden, no, it wasn't enough. A second meteor cracks the sky open and crashes down upon them nonetheless. Now, this was the moment Madara went from being this insanely dangerous threat to being the most powerful and the biggest threat the entire universe has ever faced. Because, okay, 1 meteor, that was pretty rough. Like, that was insane. But Gaara and Onoki managed to stop it. But when he can just casually summon another one, like, did you see what Gaara and Onoki had to go through to stop the first one? And you can just say, no, it didn't matter whatsoever. And because Madara's just so casual and has that calm demeanor that's arrogant and charismatic at the same time, the second meteor coming down is one of the most shocking and subversive things that's ever happened in the Naruto series. Let me know in the comments below what's the best Madara quote. Also, watch this other video right here for more cool Madara content. Subscribe if you haven't already, and also like the video to help me with the YouTube algorithm, which really helps me. Thank you so much for watching, guys.